the Iran deal. Are you comfortable with it?
I'm not, Joe, and I think there's bipartisan skepticism about it here on Capitol Hill. You've heard not only Republicans, but a number of Democrats speak about it already, and a lot of Democrats who are keeping their powder dry and going to listen, I think, to discussion over the next several weeks.
Senator John Thune on MSNBC earlier today telling Joe Scarborough he's not comfortable with that Iranian agreement. And that concern is heard from both sides of the aisle. In fact, both sides of Capitol Hill, as House Speaker John Boehner also echoes that sentiment. Boehner says it's clear the majority of both the House and the Senate oppose this deal, but cautioned the exact numbers really won't be known until after Labor Day. Well, for more, let's turn to our panel. Skyping in from Washington, D.C., Brad Blakeman, the Republican strategist and professor at Georgetown University, and from Newsmax, Washington, the former General Counsel of the Democratic Party of Virginia, Stephen Cobb. Gentlemen, welcome to Newsmax Prime. Now, we look back, and of course, Tennessee Republican Senator Bob Corker put together an agreement for congressional oversight that turned the treaty process really on its ear. It basically gives the president a way to just hang on to a minority of Democrats and keep this Iranian agreement intact. The Senate gave away its treaty powers. Brad, did you agree with what the Senate did under the Corker Amendment?
Absolutely not. I think it's up, as we know from the Constitution, for the president to take a treaty to the Senate for their approval. That's part of the advise and consent. That's part of what our constitutional forefathers set forth in the document itself. And we shouldn't be changing the Constitution, in effect, by congressional fiat. It gives the president too much power. And as the president said, he's going to veto it. He only needs a handful of Democrats or more to block the 3/4 that's needed by both houses to override it. So, no, it was a huge mistake on the part of Republicans.
Stephen Cobb, there's this vicious rumor that lawyers can argue both sides of the legality of a question. But I'm just curious, constitutionally, isn't this whole deal on thin ice?
I don't think it's on thin ice constitutionally. The Constitution's vague, as my counterpart pointed out. It says advice and consent of the Senate. They've kind of, in one way, expanded that in this instance to also include the House in the review of this particular treaty. I think it's probably on good legal ground, although this is admittedly outside my particular legal bailiwick. But it'll be interesting to see how this goes forward and whether or not this sort of procedure is applied to other treaties going forward.
Well, we take a look at that Iranian agreement internationally, and then back here at home, a story today that shocked a lot of us from Chattanooga, Tennessee, as 4 Marines were killed apparently at a recruiting center, and all that goes on. We've seen other attacks over the years at other recruiting centers. Are we going to have to rethink security even for recruitment centers, Brad Blakeman?
Absolutely. The fact that this guy, fortunately, from what the police have said, stayed in his car. It could have been a lot worse had he gotten out of that car. Unfortunately, 4 Marines are dead because of it. But yes, we have to rethink security. And most recruitment stations around the country can merely walk in the door. There's no scrutiny on people who get in. And our armed forces that are there are prevented from carrying weapons. So none of the guys who were shot today were armed. May have it been different if they were. That remains to be seen with the investigation.
Stephen, your take on this tragedy in Chattanooga?
It is just that, JD. It's a tragic event. We always want to make sure that our men and women in uniform are safe and protected. And I imagine that going forward, once the more of the facts of this particular instance comes out, there'll be a comprehensive review, and hopefully, if any measures can be put in place to further ensure the safety of these men and women, that will take those appropriate steps.
All right, before we go, got about a minute left. That Planned Parenthood controversy continues. Now Speaker Boehner calling for a congressional investigation after that video where a leader of Planned Parenthood is discussing selling organs from aborted fetuses. Should Congress get involved in this issue? 20 seconds to you both. First to you, Brad.
Absolutely, they should get involved. And this video is just, in my opinion, the tip of the iceberg. Yes, anytime federal money is being used, it needs to be scrutinized, every penny.
Stephen, 20 seconds to you, sir.
Absolutely not. This is an investigation that would go nowhere, done after a cut up and ambushed, got you video that doesn't even include anything of note. It's been debunked by numerous news authorities. Planned Parenthood's addressed it. This is something that we should move past, move on to more pressing issues.
All right, gentlemen, we'll leave it there. Stephen Cobb, Newsmax, Washington. Brad Blakeman also Skyping in from the nation's capital. Our thanks to you both. And there is more discussion and more coverage ahead as we continue here on Newsmax Prime. Stay with us.